All right, and we are live. What is up, everybody? I decided to go live just a few minutes early today because I figured it's just going to be me here for the breakdown for the PFL 9 as the playoffs continue. We're on to the featherweight and light heavyweight portion of the playoffs taking place this Friday, August 27th on ESPN Plus at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Then going over to ESPN2 at 10 o'clock. So it's a later Friday night card. Also the LFA card, which I will be breaking down later this week, also going down on Friday. So busy Friday of MMA. Hope everybody's doing well out there. Decided to get this video out early as I was fortunate enough to have the lines out, as well as all of the matchups are in place, and looks like hopefully they'll go through smooth the rest of the week. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get our breakdown started. We might be joined by a guest along the way, but as always, I don't mention the guests. I just, if they can make it, they can make it. That'd be great. Otherwise, I'll continue with the breakdown. So just me, and not much I'm going to be able to banter about with myself. So how about we go ahead and get into the reason we're here. Let's go ahead and get into the breakdown show today. Starting with Jacob Kilburn and in his fight here at lightweight. This is not a playoff fight. This is just basically an audition for next season. But between two fighters here at 155, and Jacob Kilburn and Brandon Jenkins. This is definitely an interesting fight here. 8-4, Jacob Kilburn, who at some points I think was at featherweight, obviously in the UFC, lost his 2 fights in the UFC as well as his Contender Series fight, but always a tough go of things in there. Billy Quantillo and Austin Lingo going to a decision with both those guys. Particularly, we saw Austin Lingo last week, how he looked in his win over Luis Saldana. And Jacob Kilburn was, if nothing else, very, very tough in that fight. Took everything Lingo had to have. That was at featherweight, however. We're now moving up to lightweight for him. I thought there was some talks maybe of possibly going down to bantamweight, but he's facing off against Brandon Jenkins, the human highlight reel, fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada, 29 years old, turns 30 in about a month, fighting out of Syndicate MMA, 6 foot tall, 72-inch reach. These guys do have the same reach, albeit 5'9" versus 6 foot. So always interesting when that's going down. But first guy I'll be breaking down is Mr. Brandon Jenkins. Has a very salty record, 14-7. But we'll take a look at who he's faced. Obviously being coached by John Wood over at Syndicate MMA, a very good camp on a 2-fight win streak, 29 years old. Still definitely has plenty of his prime left. Both these guys are in their 20s. The 2-fight win streak coming in Caged Aggression. Not a bad organization at all. Jordan Hindman, he defeated with a spinning back elbow. Was able to see a highlight, not the full fight, but definitely an impressive. And then was supposed to take on Jonathan Thompson, who's not a great fighter, I believe a 4-3 regional fighter. Took on Aaron Mitchell, 7-2-1 on short notice. That was back in March of this year on the 26th. Good fight, 5 rounds. You can see it back on YouTube. So definitely showed in that fight that he has a good gas tank. Also that he fought for a championship. So he was a champion over in Caged Aggression. Was supposed to face Brock Weaver over in Game Bred MMA at their inaugural bout, and he withdrew. Not sure exactly why, but that was back in June, and now back in August 27th, he's back ready to go. His last loss was to Contender Series veteran Mike Breeden, lost by a flying knee in that one. That was at LFA 77 back in September of 2019. Besides that, alternated wins and losses. His losses are not to guys. I do know Robert Watley, a decent fighter, but Jeff Peterson, not familiar with, nor Damon Hill, or Austin Tweedy, Carson Fury, Nick Compton I am familiar with, and 10-4, no shame in that. Lost to Brock Weaver on the regional scene. I went back and watched some of Brandon Jenkins' tape. He would have some explosive techniques, but overall not the most explosive guy, but definitely very steady. If I had to describe one of these guys as more explosive with their striking techniques, I would say it would be Jacob Kilburn. Jacob Kilburn, 8-4, coming off that 2-fight losing streak in the UFC, has not fought since January of this year over at Fight Island. Only 26 years old, 5'9", 72-inch reach. The reach is identical. He's back at Harris Holt Combat Sports. I think for a time he was competing with the ATT down there in Coconut Creek, Florida. I think he's decided to just move back. Was supposed to face Ali Al-Akisi back at Titan for the featherweight title, which Ali did win, and Kilburn withdrew. And now he's a few weeks later, so I think possibly he got the opportunity to fight with the PFL and took it. Has auditioned essentially for $1 million here, so no judgment at all, and not exactly sure why, but I assume it's not injury related. But I think this is going to be a really, really good fight here. Austin Lingo was an excellent fight to go back and watch. Yes, there were many moments in that fight where Kilburn had some issues, but actually was able to take down Lingo, which was very impressive. Also landed some of his own good shots and took everything Lingo had to offer. Lingo has been a prolific finisher prior to the UFC, and I just don't think people quite know yet how hard Lingo hits. But, I mean, Kilburn really did take those shots well, but obviously you don't want to just be tough. You want to have a good technique as well. Before the UFC, he definitely was able to show that more so. Against a 27-10 Davidson Ribeiro, came out and finished him with a real nice 1-2 combination 10 seconds into the second round at Island Fights. Also KO'd Jarvinius J. Ross as well with his Taekwondo style striking. I think this is going to be a very, very good fight. I'm really looking forward to seeing how both guys have improved since their last time out. I think that these guys are very well matched up, both in their 20s, very, very hungry. I'm going to go Jacob Kilburn, however. I just like his overall ability to keep this fight a little bit more mixed up. I think that he has a little bit more crisper striking technique. I think he's got a little bit better ability to hurt his opponent. And if there is a finish in this fight, I'm actually going to go with the killer Kilburn here. I do think he also could get a decision. I think for the most part, this is going to be on the feet. If one of these two chooses to take it to the ground, I think it would be Kilburn. And I would be interested to see how he does there. Getting to the odds, we got the odds are still kind of fresh here, but it is a slight favorite for Brandon Jenkins at this point, minus 130-ish. You can get Kilburn for around even to plus 105 I'm seeing right now. But this was one of the later fights to be formed, so we're still going to be working through it here and seeing. But I would anticipate that Brandon Jenkins ends up as the favorite. Kilburn has failed in his 3 UFC attempts against Bobby Moffitt, against Austin Lingo, and so I do get that in Billy Quantillo. Sorry, I was just blanking for a second on the third loss, but in Billy Quantillo, I get it. Failing on the main stage does stick in people's minds, but I do think those experiences, he hasn't been finished other than Moffitt, and that was by Moffitt's specialty on the ground. I don't see this going to the ground. If it does, I see Kilburn taking it there, maybe using some cage control, the single leg as well. I'm looking forward to this one. I will take Kilburn, and I anticipate Kilburn's going to be the slight dog, but this is going to be a close fight, definitely an exciting fight to kick off the card. So I'm very excited there. And we're going to move on to the next fight here. We have another Contender Series veteran in Alejandro Flores, which I'll be getting to how he did on the Contender Series in a moment here. fighting out of VFS, which is where potential knockout of the year candidate Ignacio Bahamondes fights out of right now, as well as a few other fighters. So definitely an up and coming camp. Taking on the wrestler, I would say Carl Deaton III. I will get right into it with Carl Deaton, CD3 here. Very, very cool Tapology picture. Actually is a Native American and fights out of Michigan. So a lot of his regional fights were in the Mount Pleasant area where I actually went to school at. So shout out to Carl for that. 31 years old, 5'6", 68.5-inch reach, 15-4 in 2 no contests, fighting out of American Top Team in Minnesota Minnesota Martial Arts Academy. Did lose his last time out to Jonas Flock back in October of 2019. We did see last week Jonas make his PFL debut, and unfortunately was on the short end. We were able to talk to him on the channel here. Lost to Christian Lozen in a pretty good fight there, but definitely a fight that was very noticeable where Jonas had the significant grappling advantage over Carl, who himself is a grappler. You look, and the wins are not over a ton of noticeable guys. His last win was a knockout over a 5-26 opponent. Has faced Nathan Williams twice. Not familiar with who that is. Did lose to Vince Murdoch, albeit by decision. And just overall a lot of regional talent fighting for Mecca organization and NATO, a few others. I think Carl looks to really use his boxing to get in close clinch, get it to the wrestling, but pretty basic when it comes to that. Alejandro Flores, 19-3. El Gallardo is 30 years old now, fighting out of Mexico. 5'10", 73-inch reach, so right away, 4.5-inch reach advantage sticks out for me. I noticed that immediately. The experience will be in Flores's side as well, and 30 versus 31, similar age. As I said, VFS Academy is where he's fighting out of right now. Yair Rodriguez also preparing for his fight with Max Holloway, so that camp is hot right now. We just saw Ignacio Bahamondes, how he looked against Roosevelt Roberts as an underdog, mind you, and very impressive. Definitely good guys to be preparing for Alejandro. Coming off a win back in June 18th at Naciones MMA 2. Not familiar, but 5-0 opponent Tio Landono. And knocked him out within a minute. Very impressive for a guy who had a lot of decisions coming into this. Did lose by guillotine to Truck. I think his nickname is Tractor, in Rafael Alves on the Contender Series. Got guillotine choke, caught in a guillotine, but that was a very good Contender Series fight. Otherwise, with Combate and Icon, put together a lot of decision wins, 12-2, 10-2 opponents. Lost by a spinning elbow at a Combate, which was actually on a night where he was fighting 3 times. So it was in the 3rd fight in the finals, actually. So pretty rough there. Had a Darce choke win that night as well as a decision win. But it's hard to judge getting knocked out by a spinning elbow in your 3rd fight of the night. Definitely very impressive. Taj, what up? Good to see you, my friend. No flex in here since Bunny's not here, I guess. But it's all good. Good to have you here, man. Just breaking down the fights. On our 2nd fight right now, breaking down Alejandro Flores and Carl Deaton. But I'm very impressed with what I've been able to see with Flores. I remember breaking down his fight against Alves and realizing that was going to be a tough fight for him, but I was hoping I do believe I picked Alves, but I did see a route for Flores and was kind of rooting for Flores. Much more favorable matchup here against Carl Deaton. Physically, he has the advantages here. He's at a very hot camp right now. I'm expecting to see some pretty sharp, crisp striking, keep it on the feet. Alejandro, I like Alejandro by finish, personally. That main event, baby, is going to be sweet. I can't wait to get to it. definitely a certified banger. But this one, I think that Flores looks to keep it on the feet, maybe offensively mixes in the grappling, but I think he gets a finish. And I think it comes in the first round with his strikes. I really like how Flores is looking. Carl Deaton has not taken another fight since October of 2019 when he lost to Jonas Flock. Flores is a minus 350 favorite, definitely a heavy favorite, but I do believe that is parlayable. And if you can get the prop for inside the distance, I like that for Flores as well. But minus 350 definitely is heavy for him, but I think this is a good matchup for him. And I'm surprised it's not a little heavier, to be honest. So these prelims, and that was at 145, by the way. These prelims are really, really fascinating to me. Next one, also at 145, we got Hick Diaz, Mr. Jason Knight, taking on Bobby Moffitt. Battle of two former UFC grapplers who sometimes maybe scrapped on the feet a little more than they should, especially one in Jason Knight. But I would be breaking down Bobby Moffitt first, the 13-6 Bobby Moffitt, fighting out of MMA Lab in Phoenix, Arizona, 5'10", 74-inch reach, 31 years old here for the Wolfman, Bobby Moffitt. We take a look at him here, 13-6, as I said, 31 years old, and find out MMA Lab, very good camp. He is on a 3-fight losing streak, technically 4, although Chaz Skelly, I believe, failed a drug test afterwards, but I don't remember exactly why, but I'm pretty sure Chaz Skelly Darce choked him. But he does have a Darce choke win in his last 2 wins, actually, over a Jonathan Jackson, not Jason Jackson, and then Jacob Kilburn. He did Darce choke on the Contender Series to get his UFC contract. On the UFC, it went pretty rough for him. Lost to Bryce Mitchell, however, by decision. That was a very good competitive matchup, a lot of scrambles. Enrique Barzola was a split decision, and a lot did have it for Moffitt, and then was cut from the UFC, unfortunately. Actually, after Barao, he was supposed to fight Barao in Taura MMA last year, but that was postponed, and then he was picked up by the PFL finally, fighting in June of this year, taking on Bubba Jenkins, and Bubba Jenkins did what Bubba Jenkins does. Wrestled. Tough matchup for him. Moffitt just couldn't really get it going. He was actually supposed to fight Derek Campos for Fury FC. That was scrapped, and now he's back with the PFL fighting Jason Knight. Overall, with Moffitt, he's a pretty limited striker, definitely likes to get to the grappling. Is very much known for his arm triangles and Darce chokes. Has a loss to Rayoni Barcelos, has a win over Nate Jennerman as well as TJ Brown. So very well tested. Dan Moret, another win he has on his regional scene. He's very well tested. A lot of Darce chokes, a lot of different chokes. That's where I think he's going to be looking to get this fight with Jason Knight. But yeah, this one's very definitely a very close fight, Taj. I will tell you if I agree with you in a second here, but I'm going to get over to Jason Knight. This is a really good matchup. This and the Kilburn matchup, I think, and Brandon Jenkins are very good matchups in very different ways. We got like the 2 strikers here in Kilburn and Jenkins, and now Jason Knight and Moffitt. These are 2 grapplers. Predominantly, I hope they do scramble quite a bit here. Jason Knight's head coaches are Alan Belcher, Brandon Davis. He's training out of Mississippi, American Top Team. So Alan Belcher just had a fight recently. I believe Brandon Davis has one coming up. His last fight was a bare knuckle MMA fight against Charles Felony Bennett. I apologize. And in that fight, Charles Bennett actually connected pretty well with Jason Knight, busted his eye, looked like a potential broken orbital, nearly finished him. But then Bennett made some mistakes getting to the ground. Jason Knight sunk in the hooks, did not let go of those hooks, and ended up finishing with a rear naked choke. But that was only in June of this past year. And this is just over 2 months later, and a lot of bare knuckle damage was taken by Knight in that fight. You can actually go check it out on YouTube in those 2 minutes. And even in his fight with Icon in March of this year, he took quite a bit of damage from a 12-14 opponent in Cliff Wright before finishing it with the rear naked choke. And so overall, I just think the bare knuckle bout with Artem Lobov, that was a 5-round war before it was stopped, but both guys took a lot of damage. Again, he's just kind of been in some different kind of bouts lately, not a lot of pure MMA bouts. And in the pure MMA bout, he does kind of throw down on the feet, get hurt on the feet, and then escape to the grappling. However, I think against Bobby Moffitt, that's not going to be as much of an option. As long as Bobby Moffitt is kind of not getting into a complete brawl, phone booth type of war with Jason Knight, I think he can piece together a decision here. If it's a scramble, it's anybody's, and I do favor Jason Knight ever so slightly if it's a pure grappling scramble and maybe to take something. But I'm going to take Moffitt by decision. It's not a super exciting pick, might not be a super exciting fight, in my opinion, just because of how these guys do match up. I think a lot of their options might be kind of canceled out, but I do hope that I'm wrong, and we will definitely see. Getting to the odds for this one, it's kind of going back and forth. I've got Jason Knight as a plus 105 underdog to the minus 125 Bobby Moffitt. I could see this one kind of leaning both ways. I'm probably just going to straight up pass on it. But if my official pick will be Bobby Moffitt by decision, I just think these guys are going to cancel out a lot of each other's skills here. Both out of decent camps though, and hopefully it's an exciting fight. But we shall see. Next fight also at 145 between Anthony Dizzy and Jesse Stern. Another very well matched up fight here. Oftentimes in MMA, when it's well matched up, it can go to the decision just because both guys, I think, physically and technique wise can cancel each other out. This could be another case here. Jesse Stern, I will be breaking down first. Relentless from Woodlawn, Maryland, fighting at Ground Control Academy. Lets you know a little bit about what he's looking to do in his fights. But he's 11-5, 29 years old, 5'9", 69-inch reach. He had his last fight against Shaman Marias. Very good fight. Was able to have some very tricky takedowns against the veteran in Shaman Marias. Avoided a lot of the strikes in that one. Actually got swept by Kimura before being submitted by the Kimura at the end of the second round. So maybe a possible little bit of a technique error or just something Marias was able to take advantage of. Stern was supposed to fight Lance Palmer back in June. Lance Palmer got rebooked, so now he's getting an opportunity here against Anthony Dizzy. Overall, wins and losses alternated in his last four, a split win, then an armbar loss to Pat Sabatini. Reginald Adams win at CFFC 95 back in April of this year, and then in June of this year lost to Shaman Marias. Overall, has been rear naked choked in a loss twice, been submitted overall 3 times, 4 times. So definitely a little bit of a problem for a guy who really likes to grapple, wrestle. A lot did look impressive against Shaman before that happened. However, Anthony Dizzy is a tricky fighter, 13-4 Lamas. I just think 33 years old, 5'7", 73-inch reach, so actually does have the reach advantage. Fighting out of a Bulgaria top team, is coming off a very close loss with Chris Wade. That was a very back and forth fight there. I actually had Dizzy going into that fight. I just think that what I've seen from Dizzy, I really like. He's got surprising pop to his punches, good ground and pound, very good wrestling as well. Some good experience in his opponents prior to the PFL, and looked like he belonged in there with Chris Wade as well. I definitely like his matchup here with Jesse Stern. He did have to withdraw from his fight with Brandon Jenkins only in June. Possible maybe weight cut issues. Not exactly sure what the details were on that, but I think these guys, again, I sound like a broken record, but they matched up very well here on the PFL. I think these guys match up very well together, but I think Anthony Dizzy is better in the stand-up, better in the grappling, and better overall game plan, and has the better experience. So I'm going to go with Dizzy here. I do not like his odds, even though I do like him in this matchup. I was hoping that the odds would be a little better. Minus 350, plus 260 for Jesse Stern. This could be a fight where whichever person's on top ends up winning. And if Jesse's on top, he looked really, really solid other than those Kimura sweeps against Shaman Marias. And I do think that's something that is correctable. So I'm a little nervous seeing that kind of a price. I'm probably just going to say it's a pass, especially because I think that Dizzy might be getting a close decision here. So it could just be whoever's really on top there. So while matchup, I just think Dizzy's better everywhere, but the odds appear to agree with me at minus 350. I don't feel comfortable investing too heavily in Anthony Dizzy, nor should really anybody else. We got 3 different MMA cards this weekend. We can be very selective, and this is one I'm just going to have to say pass. Or if you're feeling Stern, I don't blame the dog either. It's very well matchup. But going to move on here to the next fight. It is at 205. I'm extremely, extremely excited for this one. Chris Camozzi taking on Corey Hendricks. This is going to be a really, really good matchup, I think. I've loved kind of seeing the renaissance of Chris Camozzi. I've been a fan of his for a long time. Remember seeing him back at UFC on Fox, the first fight against Dustin Jacoby, who's actually back in the UFC, where he got a 10-finger guillotine on Dustin Jacoby to win the first fight on that card, first fight ever on Fox. But enough about that. More about Corey Hendricks here, 8-3. I'm a big fan of this guy as well. A surprising 33 years old. Looks like a younger guy, but got started in MMA a little bit younger. Another Syndicate MMA product here. Fought in June of this past year on the 17th of June. Took on Martin Hamlet Nielsen, who is fighting in the playoffs. Still made the playoffs based on this first round win. But Corey Hendricks, who I remember breaking down and favoring in that matchup with Martin Hamlet, I said he was going to work him deep into the third round and end up maybe taking a decision or getting a finish. He got that finish with 4 minutes and 9 seconds passed in the third round. Rear naked choke finish. Really impressive fight over Martin there, and looked really good doing it. That's just kind of who Corey Hendricks is. His only loss in his last 4 was to Nazaredinov, who is in the UFC. We've seen, and it was a majority decision, very close fight with ACA. Otherwise, a rear naked choke of Luke Barnett. Beat Carlos Eduardo as well. Carlos Eduardo, I believe we've broken down over in the LFA. But Corey Hendricks, he's a scrapper, man. He's very, very good in there. I think Syndicate MMA has done wonders for him, and looked very good on short notice now as a full camp to take on Chris Camozzi. Chris Camozzi, as I said, one of my favorite, just my favorite guys in MMA, 26-15. Had some glory fights as well with kickboxing, 34 years old, still relatively young considering the amount of experience, 6'3", 78-inch reach, so significant reach advantage there for Camozzi. Like to see that fighting out of Genesis Training Academy, coming off a very impressive unanimous decision win over Cesar Ferreira. Yeah, dude, there's tons. This whole card almost is littered with close fights. I really love it. It's very, very, very interesting fight card. Can be very selective. Luckily, the odds are close as well. But yeah, this is another close one. Chris Camozzi, I thought, really put on an impressive performance against Emiliano Sordi in his fight. I'm maybe too biased, but I had it for Camozzi. But either way, very, very close fight for Camozzi with the 2-time light heavyweight champion in Sordi. Then he put away, he took a decision of Ferreira. Very impressive there. Chris Camozzi, he's good everywhere, man. He's good on the feet. He's good with his wrestling. Yet he's had some tough losses as well. But yeah, I think this is a very, very close fight. I'm really torn on this one. I love the experience, the 41 fights for Chris Camozzi, but also with those 41 fights, a lot of wars. And that Hendricks upset. Oh man, I had Hendricks in that one, Taj. So that was on the old channel I was on. But yeah, I think Hendricks upset a lot of people's parlays after people saw how Martin Hamlet looked against Daniel Spawn. But either way, this is a really close fight. I'm gonna lean ever so slightly towards Chris Camozzi here. I think that it's going to be a little veteran guile experience, has the reach advantage. I think the stand-up does favor Camozzi, but Corey might kind of pull another upset here, or maybe not even an upset. I need to look at the odds, but in my view, I think Chris Camozzi should be the favorite. He is the slight favorite at -120, but it's shrinking. Corey Hendricks is an even money dog, so this is nearly a pick'em. I will be interested to see the weigh-ins. Chris Camozzi, though, I think should have won his 2 fights in the PFL and been in the playoffs. So Corey Hendricks coming on short notice to beat Martin Hamlet and knock off his momentum. That is a tremendous fight at 205 on the prelims. Again, on the prelims, you guys, crazy. And then on to our featured prelim fight. This is at 145 here between Shaman Marias and Lazar Stondanovic. I'll just call him Lazar from here on out. I'm sure I butchered that. I apologize. Do my best with the names, but it's hard, especially when you're on your own. But, yeah, good fight here at 145. Lazar 14-8, fighting out of Miami, Florida. Actually the older guy at 32 and a half years old, 5'7", 65-inch reach, fighting out of Extreme Couture, the Bronx Bomber. Big fan of Extreme Couture, of course. And 14-8, not the best of records, however. Did lose to Moffitt, Hiyabulav in his PFL debut back in April of this year. So no shame there. Went the distance actually with Moffitt in that fight. Was supposed to take on Lance Palmer. However, he had to withdraw on June. Not sure exactly what happened, but we look at the record. A few rear naked choke wins, decision wins over guys like Mike Richmond, Isaac Shelton, while losing by head kick to Erwin Rivera and Thon Lee. So there is a potential striking issue for Lazar. He likes to just kind of get you down, keep you there, control the fight there. A lot of decisions, a few rear naked chokes, and everything like that. But overall, he just not quite seeing yet what makes Lazar kind of too special. He did go to decision with Moffitt, but I didn't see a lot of offense in that. It was much more defensive. Shaman Marias, 12-5 here, 30 years old, 5'8", 72-inch reach. So the reach will be significantly with Shaman, 7-inch reach advantage. Sticks out fighting on Team Nogueira, coming off a big win of Jesse Stern to get off of that 3-fight losing streak, albeit the 3 fights were Sadiq Youssef, Andre Feely, and Brendan Loughnane. So no shame in those. He was losing a lot of that fight to Jesse Stern, however, before he was winning it. But Jesse Stern was using a good wrestling game, and I think Lazar is going to look to replicate that. So that's where this gets tricky. This is another close fight. Shaman has wins over guys like Matt Sales, Julio Arce, that's aged very well. Went nearly the distance with Sabit Magomed Sharipov. I mean, very good level of competition here. Has a finish of Robbie Peralta back in the day. I'm going to lean ever so slightly towards Shaman Marias in this one. Would not surprise me at all if Lazar comes out and makes this a grappling, contained against the cage type of affair. But Shaman with the experience, the 7-inch reach, the good striking. I think that Shaman should be able to finish Lazar. Lazar's been finished by a few other opponents, albeit Erwin Rivera and Thon Lee are very good opponents. I think Shaman can possibly finish him as well, maybe catch him coming in on one of those takedowns. Shaman is the minus 165 favorite, plus 135 to Lazar. I'm probably just going to leave this one alone on my card, but I would lean Shaman by KO if I was picking a method. That concludes the prelim portion. Then they're going to move over to ESPN2, or you can stay on ESPN Plus at 9 o'clock, I believe. And we're starting out in the playoffs, finishing the semifinals here. We got the 205ers here, both coming off losses, interestingly enough, and Martin Hamlet Nielsen taking on Cesar El Mutante Ferreira. I will be breaking down Mr. Nielsen first here, but this is another. I mean, I know I'm saying this over and over again, but another close fight here between who. All depends on who gets it into their world here. So these are very well matched up fighters, albeit in different ways. So Martin Nielsen, 7-2, fighting out of Norway, Frontline Academy, 29 years old, coming off that loss to Corey Hendricks, where he was winning the fight up until the end there, but did gas pretty significantly in the third round. And so we got some potential cardio issues here with Dan Spawn, predominantly stand-up fighter. He was able to take him down at will. He got the finish with the arm triangle in the second round. Really looked powerful in that one. But we see he got finished by Modestas Bukauskas on Cage Warriors, albeit in the fourth round. Was finished by Corey Hendricks in the third round. So he's been finished in his two losses. And overall, don't really recognize the level of opponents he's faced. Dan Spawn is a decent striker, but pretty one-dimensional. Cesar Ferreira, 14-9 here, has faced the much better level of competition, albeit he's 36 years old, so there's a significant age difference here. 78-inch reach for the 6'1 fighter out of MMA Masters, so good reach advantage here. That Chris Camozzi fight was an absolutely grueling affair there for Cesar Ferreira. That was back in June. This is about 2 months later. He did take some damage, but it was more grueling. And again, that's how three of his last four fights he's lost. But it's been Ian Heinisch who did the wrestle on repeat, keep it off the feet type of game plan. Same with Vittori. Nick Rourke looked like he did not belong in the PFL and got absolutely starched 30 seconds into that one. Which made a lot of people excited. And I had Camozzi against Cesar Ferreira. At 205, I'm just not quite sure if the benefits are there for Cesar Ferreira. I think that Martin Nielsen looks to follow the game plan of his last three losses, which was push it against the cage, get him to the ground, wear on the cardio. But Martin doesn't have the best cardio either. So I could see this by a third round looking really sloppy. But I'm hoping someone goes to sleep in this one, seeing Taj's comment here. I hope you're right, because I think the third round of this could get very, very grueling, and with two guys really leaning on each other and breathing hard, because I think both guys could wear themselves out by the third round. But if that is the case, I do edge ever so slightly if it's 1-1 going into the third to Cesar Ferreira. So it does make me feel that Martin needs to bank 2 rounds and rely on that cardio in the third round. I could certainly see that happening, but if this is 1-1, I got Cesar Ferreira. I also think on the feet, Cesar has a significant advantage. So if he's able to work on the wrestling, the grappling, staying off his back, which he does have good jiu-jitsu as well. Yeah, I think that overall that Martin Hamlet, once that wrestling goes away, he's going to get very desperate. His stand-up is not the best, and Ferreira, I think, can finish him possibly in the second round. So I'm going to go with Cesar Ferreira in this one. But I think this is a good matchup. We got a grappler versus a striker, albeit I think Ferreira can do a little bit of both better. And I do hope he gets the finish. Ferreira is a dog at plus 130. I believe he's my second dog on the night here. But I like that price on Ferreira quite a bit. I do think the Camozzi loss is not the worst of losses, albeit I'm a very big Camozzi fan. And I think Martin Hamlet has a lot of questions to answer on that gas tank also. So this is a very big fight, very important fight, great way to lead it off. But I'm going to go ever so slightly towards Ferreira. I'm glad I got the dog at plus 130 in that one. But next fight, we're going to get the 205ers out of the way first here. So we're taking – this is the second 205 fight here between Emiliano Sordi, and Antonio Carlos Jr., also known as Shoeface. This is a very interesting matchup as well. Not many uninteresting matchups on this PFL. Very well built by them, taking place in Hollywood, Florida, this Friday, August 27th. But we got the 23-8-1 Sordi at 30.5 years old out of Argentina, fighting out of Alliance MMA and United MMA Fight Center, taking on the American top team product in Shoeface out of Brazil, 31.5 years old, slight age to Antonio Jr. But Antonio Jr., I will be breaking down first, 11-5, coming off a win back in June 17th of this year with the PFL. Very good fight for him there. It was, well, it's, actually that fight was not good for him. The fight was in April over Tom Lawler. Then he was taking on Vinny Magalhaes at the PFL 5, where there was a groin strike to Magalhaes in a clinch strike. Looked like Magalhaes could have continued, but Magalhaes ended up being unable to continue, so that went down as a no contest. I do think Shoeface was heading towards a win. It just would have been interesting if he would have been able to get the finish or not. With the UFC, he lost 3 straight at 185. Ian Heinisch has split over Uriah Hall, and then Brad Tavares was not finished in any of those fights. Those are very good fighters to lose to. Brad Tavares has the UFC record for most decision wins, and then finished Tom Lawler, who came back and had a big win in his second fight. So definitely impressive finish for Shoeface there. Legit Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Stand-up continues to get better, but he's gonna look to grapple in this one. It's all about can he get the takedowns against Emiliano Sordi here, 23-8-1 for the 30-year-old Argentinian, 6'2", 77-inch reach. So there's a 2-inch reach advantage for Sordi. Sordi's going to look to keep this on the feet. Did have a very close fight with Dan Spawn in their last fight, where Spawn was able to actually get a draw out of the fight. So definitely interesting. Had a close decision win over Chris Camozzi in their first fight, where he definitely slowed down, was taken down a few times in that fight by Chris Camozzi and beat up pretty well as well. So a close decision win and then a draw over Spawn, definitely fighting guys much closer. And for that, was off for about a year. So with the COVID, obviously PFL did not have a 2020 season. So maybe he's kind of rounding into form here, and maybe coming into this fight, we see the best version. But based on what I've seen since returning from the break for Sordi, it seems he's lost a little bit of the sting off his punches. The gas tank seems to be a little bit more shallow than it was before. And I think Carlos Jr. has looked revitalized at 205. I think he was looked sharp. And I think that Carlos Jr. gets Sordi down in this one and ends up getting the submission at some point. Probably, I'll say in the first round. There's a guillotine choke twice he's had against Gregory Babin. I'm not familiar with, and Ryan Spann, no shame there. So I think that Shoeface is the third guy who's going to submit Mr. Sordi here. Be a huge win for Shoeface, beating the multiple light heavyweight champion. But yeah, I just think that that Spawn fight, I think, said a lot about Sordi, because I do think the Camozzi fight also was a very close fight, and then Spawn was the next fight in. I think that he's kind of just slowing down a little bit. Maybe those $1 million checks have taken away a little bit of the grit there, but I'm going to go with Chris Camozzi here. Or Chris Camozzi. Antonio Shoeface here. Sorry, Camozzi's on the mind, but I'm going to go with Carlos Jr. Shoeface by submission. I do think a decision also could be in the works, but if it goes to decision, possibly very close. Shoeface is the slight favorite, minus 140. You can get Sordi for a plus 115. So yeah, no, unfortunately, Taj, Shoeface is the slight favorite. I expect that line to get widened though. So, but if you can get Sordi as an underdog and like his chances, I just think based on the 2021 Sordi I've seen, I'm not quite seeing the same tenacity out of that fighter. But we'll see. No disrespect, but I think Carlos Jr. looks really good at 205 as well. So gonna get to our next fight here. It is the co-main event. Very, very good fight. Yeah, occasionally the bookies. No, the bookies seem to be pretty sharp on this one. I've only got one or possibly two underdogs so far. So a lot of favorites in close fights, close favorites. But yeah, the bookies are on top of their stuff here. Next fight, though, 140, beginning of the 145 semifinals, we got Chris Wade versus Bubba Jenkins. Talk about a close fight, in my opinion. I think this is a very close fight. Bubba Jenkins, the bad man, versus Chris Wade, the Long Island killer, 33-year-old. Chris Wade turns 34 in a month, taking on 33-and-a-half-year-old Bubba Jenkins out of Black House MMA, 5'8", 72-inch reach for Bubba Jenkins, who I will be breaking down first, 16-4 versus 19-6. It's a really close fight, in my opinion. But Bubba Jenkins, he's known for one thing. They call him Bad Man for one reason. Out of Arizona State, where he wrestled, he's a wrestler. He's a very good wrestler out of Black House. 5-fight win streak for Bubba Jenkins. Seems to be putting it all together at the right time in his career. Wins over Lucas Martins, Lance Palmer, and Bobby Moffitt in his last three. And Bobby Moffitt, he took on very short notice, was supposed to take on Anthony Dizzy in this one. And, I just think that he's looked really good. I mean, he goes in there and he does, he just implements his wrestling, really good top control, good ground and pound as well. Definitely the ways he likes to go about it. He likes to get on top of you and beat you up till you quit. Chris Wade has looked very impressive this season, though. 19-6 for the 33-year-old fighting out of Long Island MMA. 2-fight win streak for Mr. Wade. Was an underdog against Arman Azapanov. Don't know why he was. Head kick finish, his first KO finish of his career. And it came on the feet. Looked really sharp in that one. And Arman did not look good, but Arman was a favorite. So I was confused there for sure. Anthony Dizzy, he really controlled well in that fight. He was a decent favorite, but I actually had Dizzy in that fight, so I was surprised by Chris Wade. He's looked really good so far this season. The season prior, his only loss was a decision, and it was to Loik in the semifinals of the lightweight playoffs. Beat Nate Andrews, Akhmed Aliyev. Nate Andrews again, lost a split to Natan Schultz. This guy fights everybody close. Another loss to Natan Schultz. Went to a decision with Makhachev, a decision with Rustam Hiyabulav. I mean, he fights everybody close. This is going to be a really close fight. I know that most people out there are taking Brandon Jenkins. For me, I do like what I've seen out of Brandon Jenkins, but it really seems to me that Brandon Jenkins is just straight up wrestler, ground and pound. That's what he does. That's how Brett gets fired. That's how he wins this fight here. I think he's going to have a hard time against Chris Wade. I think Chris Wade physically matches up very well with Brandon Jenkins, has looked very good at this weight class. And Chris Wade, to me, seems to be evolving at a pretty rapid pace. I feel like Bubba Jenkins could very well, though, be this season's Lance Palmer, where it's just his wrestling, his method of victory is that it's just too much to overcome. And so it's really tough for me here. I've been back and forth on this one more than any fight. Really, both these two top fights I've been back and forth on quite a bit. However, I'm going to go with Brandon Jenkins. I do think he's able to use the wrestling. to control him. He goes to another decision here. I have a hard time seeing him finish Chris Wade, but I think he takes at least 2 of these rounds, possibly all 3, with the wrestling and top control and pressure. But, yeah, I see Taj here bumping Jenkins all day. Respect, man. But, yeah, like you said, Wade has surprised him all season. He's surprised me as well. Wade could come in here and be that apple pie shitter, be the Corey Jenkins of this card, where a lot of people are looking to parlay Jenkins, especially at the price. Jenkins, I believe, is a minus, last I checked, let me confirm, a minus 190 favorite, plus 160 for Chris Wade. I'm just going to kind of let this one be, maybe bet Jenkins in a parlay or 2, possibly just by a decision prop as well. But I'll get to my top 5 right at the end here, Hermaine, if you're okay sticking around. Otherwise, I'll timestamp it. If you have to go, you can come back. But I'm just finishing up this breakdown here, so it's hard for me to switch gears like that. But I'll give you my top 5 in a moment. But I'll take Jenkins by decision here. But this is a close one, man. And Wade's been surprising and he continues to evolve even at 33 years old, especially that stand-up in the last fight was something to behold and could be a huge, huge factor in this one, along with his defensive wrestling. Appreciate it, man. Definitely we're going to get to it soon here. Just one more fight. So this is our final fight, also known as the main event. And this one is at 145. It's second in the featherweight tournament here. Brandon Loughnane taking on Moffitt Hiyabulav. This is a hell of a fight. I've been circling this one for a while now. Huge fan of both these guys. We'll be breaking down Moffitt Hiyabulav first, also known as Killer, 5'6", 70-inch reach, fighting out Eagles MMA, as well as Fight Night's team, the Russian. We'll be breaking down first 17-0-1 for the PFL veteran at this point, 30 years old, as I said, 5'6", 70-inch reach, coming off a win of Lance Palmer by decision back in June. Lance Palmer, just not a great season for him. I think once he didn't get a win in that first one, knew he had to come and get a finish. Definitely wasn't going in the best, most confident mindset. But either way, Moffitt showed that wrestling as well as his solid striking. Did the same thing against Lazar Stojanovic in earlier this year. A couple of decision wins. Over in UAE, got a 1-minute rear naked choke of a Zaka Vatulazad opponent. He was finished by Daniel Pineda, but Daniel Pineda was on the sauce. But still, the damage from that knockout counts. But that was a no contest. Before that, there was a draw with Andre Harrison, where it was just a very good, basically wrestling grappling match, where both guys were just really canceling out each other in every shape, and it was a draw. Jumping knee, we know him for over Damon Jackson in his PFL debut. Moffitt, he is just a little wrecking ball in there, really likes to get in the pocket, throw hooks, as well as knees, good power, very good wrestler as well, good top control, good grappling. I mean, there's not a lot to dislike about Moffitt. He had a few difficult fights in the PFL, but other than that, I mean, he's looked pretty ship-shape. Came back, looked good against Lance Palmer. Brendan Loughnane, I apologize. Huge fan of this guy, obviously known for his Contender Series fight, but he's become very much not known for that. He's made a name for himself on a 7-fight win streak right now, 5'9", 72-inch reach, so a significant reach advantage, which Moffitt pretty used to most of his fights. Brendan is coming off a very close majority decision win against Tyler Diamond. Tyler Diamond was able to really push that gas tank and the grappling of Brendan, and it's the most tired I've ever seen Brendan look in a fight. He fought through it. He did get to a majority decision, but I do think that has to be how Moffitt looks to go about this fight, is by really pushing the grappling, pushing the cardio, but Moffitt has some, doesn't have an endless cardio tank himself either. So he's got to be careful about pushing that. Tyler Diamond, though, really showed a lot in that fight. Took everything Brendan had to have and then pushed him to the absolute limits there, and that was back in June of this year. Brendan was right back to work after that, though. Really seems determined to show that his win over Bill Algeo should have earned him an opportunity that it didn't. But since then, he's moved on, had 2 good showcase bouts by decision in PFL in 2019. Then after the year off, came back against Shaman Marias, 2-minute knockout, looked absolutely crisp, really, really strong in that one. And then Tyler Diamond one was very close. Man, this is a tough fight. I think that Brendan learned a ton off that Tyler Diamond fight. I think that he really can correct a lot of the errors that caused that one to be so close. However, I am going to side towards the killer Moffitt here. I think that his velocity with his takedowns and his strength are going to be absolutely huge coming. And yeah, JK, don't you worry, buddy. LFA is coming on Wednesday. I'll see about the Invicta one. I'm just kind of busy with some other recordings this week, but going to do my best here. And so you're saying, man, I think you're saying, man, Loughnane is a savage, but I'll have to go with Moffitt. I mean, Taj, man, we're kind of on the same page here because that's exactly how I feel. Tyler Diamond being able to push the pace. I do think that Loughnane has very good cardio, however, but I do think that the grappling cardio is a different kind of cardio that it's hard to replicate outside of the fight game. I'm going to go with Moffitt to get a decision here, but I'm rooting for Brendan Loughnane in this one quite a bit. I think it's a hell of a main event. I would love to see it for 5 rounds, but 3 rounds, I do think Moffitt does the intelligent thing, not mixing up on the feet, looks to shoot. He has shown in several fights he's not afraid to shoot for takedowns very early in the fight. If he gets Loughnane down onto his back, I think he can really start to grind, push that pace, and take this one. So I am going to side with Taj and Moffitt here as well. As much as I wanted to take Loughnane in this one, Moffitt is only a -165, plus 135 for Loughnane. The people like Loughnane. He is coming off of that majority draw, however. So I do see this price kind of staying this way or continuing to move towards and be nice, JK. I'm not even gonna highlight that comment. Be nice. But yeah, that concludes the card breakdown here. I am gonna go through my quick picks and also for Hermaine here, give my 5 most confident picks or do my best to do that. So we'll go ahead and go to that. Yeah, JK, you're funny. You're hilarious. Notice how your comment didn't get on here. So, you got to be nice. He does his best. He just has too much Mountain Dew sometimes. But here we go. From the bottom to the top. That's that. The rest. But going to go with Jacob Kilburn over Brandon Jenkins in the first fight of the night. I anticipate Kilburn will be a slight underdog, so one of my few underdogs. Next, Alejandro Flores. Alejandro Flores will be one of my most confident picks here. I got him to get the finish impressively in round 1 with his strikes. Next here, I'm going to go with Bobby Moffitt over Jason Knight. Jason Knight's taken a lot of damage in that bare-knuckle MMA fight, and just overall, I think Moffitt's going to be more composed here and get a decision. Next, we've got Anthony Dizzy versus Jesse Stern. I like Anthony Dizzy. I'd say he's one of my more confident picks, but because I do think he's better both stand-up and grappling-wise, but I do not like the price. But I'll put him in that 5 because there's only 10 fights here, so can't be too selective. Next, Chris Camozzi versus Corey Hendricks. I love this fight so much. I got Chris Camozzi here. Very close fight, but I think the experience, size, and stand-up are going to give Camozzi the edge. He's looked hot this season as well. And you know what? We're going to put Camozzi in there. Why not? Shaman Marias versus Lazar. Stogdanovich. I can't say his last name, but that doesn't mean I don't respect him. I do have Shaman Marias slightly in this one, but Lazar could look to use the same approach that many have used against Shaman to win, besides Brandon Loughnane, and grapple and tire him out there. So not one of my more confident. Cesar Ferreira versus Martin Nielsen. This one's super, super close, man. I don't know. It could really be Martin Nielsen who gets the grappling and gets it to work here, but I think if Cesar Ferreira is able to stuff some of those takedowns, Martin Nielsen becomes very one-dimensional, panics, and the cardio will side with the 36-year-old in Ferreira. So I'm going to take El Mutante here. In that one, Emiliano Sordi versus Antonio Carlos Jr. I like Antonio Carlos Jr. here. I get that Sordi is a champion multiple times, but I do think Carlos Jr. is very suited to this weight class. He's looked much better this season than his PFL counterpart, and the level of competition, I think, is for Antonio and the black belt. I like it a lot. I'm going to put Carlos as my fourth. Chris Wade versus Bubba Jenkins should be a grappler affair. If Chris Wade can look to mix it up, keep it on the feet, I like Chris Wade, but I'm going to take Jenkins to use the wrestling and get a decision, but I think Chris Wade can easily get an upset here. I'm staying away from it. And then Brendan Loughnane versus Moffitt Hiyabulav. I'm going with the killer here. I like the killer's wrestling. I like the killer's decision ability here. I like his gas over, in the grappling especially, and he will be my fifth most confident if I had to pick one. So there's my five most confident. And then appreciate it, man. No worries. I put Moffitt in that one, Mr. MMA Wagers. So wondering what you have to say about that one. Appreciated Taj. Do appreciate you, man. And then, I just think, surprise the finals are in October and not December. Hey, you know what? It's been a good season. I'm happy to have them moving things along. And Brandon agrees with me on Bobby Moffitt. I just think a possible broken orbital against Charles Felony Bennett just a couple months ago, not a great look. But, that concludes the solo breakdown here. We're clocking at just over an hour. But, I'm pretty happy with how it went. I do think there's a couple dogs I like, which I pointed out, but overall, I do think that it's a very closely matched card, and I think a lot of these close favorites could come out on top. So we will be off tomorrow, Tuesday, but on Wednesday, I will be joined by Brandon of MMA Wagers as we break down the LFA card. I anticipated the LFA wouldn't have the odds out so quick. They actually do have the odds out, but either way, we'll be breaking that down on Wednesday. And then Thursday, it's another special bunny breakdown. Brian, obviously preoccupied, getting ready to fight in the UFC this Saturday, August 28th, in the finals in the co-main event against Gilbert Urbina's brother, or I think it's Gilbert. Maybe it's Gilbert Urbina. It's one of the Urbinas, but I'm on Brian Battle's side all day, and his price opened up at a very generous -170. I do think that has, I do think that has a slight edge. Hermaine, I agree with you, Hermaine. I think that it's slight edge, but Chris Wade's been shown a lot of improvement, really evolving. Go bet Brian Battle at -170. I think it's a very worthy bet, and I think he takes this all day over Urbina. He belongs there, and Urbina I don't think quite does yet. And then, Moffitt putting up a good fight against Jenkins. For Aaron the Dog of Aaron the Dog MMA, this solo breakdown is a wrap. Thank you to Taj, Hermaine, everybody else who stopped by. It's great to see a lot of new people showing up in the chat here. But join us on Wednesday, probably around the same time, 3:30 for the LFA breakdown. Then 7 p.m. on Thursday for the Bunny UFC breakdown of Giga Kachazian versus Edson Barboza. I don't know what it is about these Eastern European names, but I get marble mouths once in a while with them. But Giga versus Edson. But for Aaron the Dog, keep taking care of each other out there and cash those bets, everybody. Have a great one. Peace. I need an outro video. So if anybody knows how to do those, message me on Instagram.